Hey, AfterBuzzers and Siren fans, we are here for another amazing recap, episode 3, interview with a mermaid. And speaking of interviews, we have an amazing guest, Rena Owen, in the studio. We cannot wait to ask her all of these specific mermaid questions. And also, there was a lot of mermaid research happening on this episode. We can't wait to break it down, so don't go away.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Yes. I already know the words. I have my Siren song stuck in my head and I'm ready.
Man, and that Siren song captivates me every time in every episode. I feel like I get a little transformed,
right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a haunting song.
It is.
And it just makes the trailer so good.
It truly, truly does. Well, welcome back, guys, to another recap. We are so eternally excited because we've got Rena Owen in the studio.
Hi.
She plays the ever so mysterious Helen on this series, and we can't wait to get into all the nitty-gritty questions.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get into some spoilers.
I don't think so.
Well, guys, before we get into the breakdown, let's just introduce our panel. We've got Karla Beltran. How you
Hey
doing?
guys, I'm doing great, thank you.
And also, Rena, how are you?
I'm great. I'm great. We have another episode air tonight.
Yes.
And of course, as I think you've already said, interview with a mermaid. And we screened episode 1 and 2 last week, and it had amazing ratings, and it was all over social media. So there's buzz, after buzz, going on for Siren, and I'm curious to see what you all thought of episode 3.
Oh, I can't wait to break it down. We are so excited. Sarah Lyons, how's it going?
I'm fantastic. I can't wait to talk about this episode.
Me either. And hey, guys, Nasta here, bringing it all down for you. First of all, overall thoughts of this episode, Rena. We have so many questions, and I know you'll be able to answer any of them, probably. But were you guys a little creeped out as to this threesome? That's kind of a brewing. I don't really know how to explain it because
I don't know how to explain it either, but I was caught
Yeah, so
off guard.
is that just she has a connection with them?
Everybody.
I guess with everybody, but for right now, she has a
Right.
connection with both of them, right?
Yeah.
Is it a love interest or is it more of like a...
Intrigue.
a curiosity interest?
Yeah, I think at this point we don't quite have a word for what it is right now. But I think it's one of the great redeeming factors or facets about mermaids and their culture is that they don't see color, creed, or gender. They see spirits. They see the soul of a person. So her exploring and feeling out Ben and Maddie, she's not thinking male or female.
Right.
She's just looking for her tribe.
Oh, wow.
You know, so like at the end when she does kind of hop in between them, nothing necessarily goes on
she's
that
just
we see. It's just she wants to feel connected.
and she wants a family.
that's what I thought. Yeah. I was like, wait, she feels protected by them, so that's why she goes in between them. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think the thing you see about her and her character is that when the naughty guy, who got his due and she threw him through the screen, she knew when she was being touched in a way. Immediately being touched in a way that was not right. And so when she put her head on Maddie tonight, it's a really tender thing to do. That's her version of okay, I'm learning how to trust you, because they talk about the issue of trust.
Yes.
And so her doing that is okay, I'm feeling comfortable with you too. So it's not necessarily a sexual thing, but it could become that. Who knows?
Well, it's funny because I didn't even mean for it to sound that way, but it's it's even just like a trio. I think that's a better way to put it, because sometimes you can kind of tell that they're gonna form this really intricate bond, because you can even see the trust coming through Maddie and Ben almost. They know that even when it looked like she was about and it almost when they're about to kiss, Maddie's gave him a look like, this is gonna be okay.
But that's right, but they kind of crossed that bridge in the prior episode when she said to him, and it says a lot about their relationship, you know, these relationships aren't that common where they're so open, and she just said, in a funny way, I'm really attracted to her. And
Yeah.
it says,
Exactly.
he had his me too. Ben had his
Yes.
me too
Right,
moment. He
yeah.
said me too. So they both acknowledged that they've had this weird attraction to
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
So to this, what happened in this episode seemed to be the natural way it would evolve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where it goes, I'm not too sure. They don't really tell Auntie Helen these things, you see.
Right.
I'm the old girl on the block, so, you know.
Well, let's really dive into Helen's character because we've just noticed, obviously, she knows a lot of information. And I loved the quote she said tonight was, your family's refusing to acknowledge the past, but destined to repeat it.
Yeah.
I felt like that was so powerful and kind of maybe a telling thing about her spirit and who she is as a
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Because she seems like she's been through a lot of turmoil.
Yeah, you're right. And there's it's what we call a foreshadowing. You know, it's kind of a foreshadow which says, oh, this could go somewhere in terms of her history and Ben's history and his family history. And she tapped on that in the very first episode where she admits to him, your family's history is bloodier than you realized. Yeah. So it actually touches on Helen's kind of whole dynamic here, where Rin coming to land is her dream come true, but it's also her nightmare.
Right.
So, because she's afraid for Rin, and you're going to see that she's desperately trying to get Rin back into the water, because in the water, she's safe in the water. Helen knows what humans are capable of, and as she's already revealed, is that his family history, basically, it was a massacre. These creatures got slaughtered, so she's afraid of that happening again. She's afraid of Ben becoming like his ancestor and falling in love with the mermaid, then turning on her and possibly killing her. But she also taps into something in tonight's episode where she says, that's the problem with you. The word he uses is species. They're
Right.
more interested in her as a species, as they should be, because they're scientists. They're marine biologists. So, of course,
Right.
they're going to be interested in that. And therefore, the whole title, An Interview with a Mermaid, because they take her to the lab and they start testing her reflexes.
I was so uncomfortable by that whole scenario. I was telling Allie while we were watching it, I was like, when they were testing her, I was like, this makes me feel uncomfortable and I don't like it and I don't want them to test her because it just kind of, she's trying to build that trust. And I feel like by them trying to figure out all these scientific stuff about her, it kind of just switches the relationship to more of a scientific relationship than a real like friendship.
Yeah, but I think they kind of did it in like a safe way. Like that was juxtaposed with her sister, and they're like poking and prodding. She's like a prisoner, pretty much. I don't know. I didn't.
But I think it's a timely debate because that's our
true.
world. You know,
Yeah.
science versus nature. You know, we've always you're always going to have that school of thought that go, well, let's use a species and we want to know more about her.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have the more nature, spiritual kind of aspects.
How curious is too curious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
I found it very interesting, the whole interview thing, because you're battling as an audience trying to figure out, okay, you always want to figure out who's the villain, who's the good guy, who has everybody's best interests at heart. And you kind of can get that sense from Ben and Maddie. So I think it was a little startling for us because we are very guarded thinking, all right, let's not let them go too far. And as soon as you bring out a camera, it frightens me.
Right.
Because in any movie or show, when a camera comes out, someone's going to find that tape somewhere. And I think that's what worries you as an audience member. Yeah. But it was very reassuring to see that towards the end of the episode, having her be able to stay in their home and they were able to give her, a nice bed and comfort. It makes you feel, okay, they're not going to go too far with this experimenting. They just want to kind of figure it out to maybe even help her better.
And you're right, though. That's exactly what would happen. If we found another species.
Oh my gosh.
We know what's going to happen to her. And it's going to be all over CNN.
It would be
and
all
every
over
news
social
outlet.
media.
Exactly. And everybody and all the exams. And that's exactly
Yes.
what would happen to her. And he says it himself. It's a new species we can communicate with. And I think the positive of it, though, is that I think everyone's in a hurry for Rin to hurry up and learn how to talk so we can find out more.
Exactly. She's learning English very fast.
She is.
She's learning so fast, and I'm just astonished by how well. I'm forgetting her name right now.
Elaine Powell.
Elaine.
Oh my gosh,
I was
she's
gonna call her Ellen.
amazing.
She's so good.
I have
It's
seen
just the way that she speaks as a siren. I'm just like, how do you do that?
She's a real star, that young Eileen, and I've said this multiple times in interviews. If she didn't work, the show wouldn't work.
Oh, for sure.
You know, there's no doubts about that. It's her show. This is all about Rin, you know, and it really rests on her shoulders. And if people didn't buy into Rin, then they wouldn't buy into our little town. They wouldn't buy into the other characters. But fortunately, and you can't count on these things, but everybody loves Rin. And so they should. She's a marvelous, and she's a well-trained actress, and she takes her craft very, very seriously. And she did a whole lot of homework and research, and it all shows in her performance, and she's just phenomenal. And she's brilliant to work with.
Yeah, and I read an article from Collider, and they mentioned, you know, how did it feel being in the water all the time? And she had mentioned how she wanted to do more scenes in the water. And so seeing, you know, being around that and being on set, what was that like for you, you know, all working together? What was the camaraderie like?
Well, the camaraderie was phenomenal. And again, I'm going to give the credit back to Eileen, because when we did the pilot, she said something that was so pertinent. She said, in order for this to work, we have to connect. And I said, yeah, you're right. So I said, okay, you're going to be working every day, because that's the price of being a lead. You're going to work every day. I said, I'm not going to work every day. So I managed our social calendar. And I made a point that we had dinners and we had lunches. And at the time, the whole political debates were going on. So we'd watch those. We just had that time, and it really helped us to bond as a family, because we were all away from home. We're all in Vancouver. We all come from different countries. And it really laid the foundation for love and friendship. And that came from her. She knew that. She knew that we needed to connect. Because it's also a big part of the story of her coming to land, and she's looking for these connections. It's like with her and Helen. You know, there's connections there that before even dialogue happens, there's this kind of connection. And more will be revealed with every episode.
Which we cannot wait. We were just actually even talking at the end of last episode. We were thinking, oh my gosh, like there's so many things we want to know. We want to know now, and we just obviously have to be patient. But it is so intriguing and amazing.
Well, that's great, because that means we've got a show.
Oh,
If people weren't intrigued and wanted to know more, that's what keeps us tuning in every week, right? We want to know what's going to happen. What's going to happen? And at this point, you're right. Anything can happen, because there is this juxtaposition of, you've got Ben and Maddie, and they are possibly love interests, but then they're also got the scientific thing going on, and it's interesting, your reaction, but it's exactly how we would react. If someone found a species, say an alien or whatever, and suddenly it's in a cage and we're all looking at it. That's how we would all react. We'd go, oh my God, that's gross. Or leave it alone, or, you know.
Because it's different and we don't know about it, you know.
But see, we want to know, though.
Exactly.
So it's part of our human condition. We do want to know, but, you know,
Exactly. And we kind of got a little bit of a glimpse of what more the government is trying to figure out and figure out what this species actually has.
That's right.
And they found out that they had these rats that were paralyzed, and they injected some of the DNA from the mermaid, and then they were fine. And so that kind of goes more into why they're keeping Chris like captive, because they're trying to keep him from, you know, maybe he has some of the
That's exactly right.
blood.
That's exactly right, because people were asking that question last week. Why is Chris being held captive?
Exactly.
And it's exactly for that reason, to see how that particular wound has
affected him.
Yeah. And yeah.
Well, we were even thinking that because
I can't wait to see how it affects him.
I know.
I'm like, I hope he's okay, but I hope he gets powers as well, or he turns into a merman or something.
Oh, really? Oh, there's a mermaid. There's a merman coming, honey. And that's not a scene spoiler. That was already in the media. It was announced a long time ago when the gorgeous Sadao was cast as our first merman.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, guys, there's a merman coming to town, and we are ready for him.
Oh my gosh. So exciting. And obviously we were even thinking, well, maybe Ben's going to turn into a merman, and then that would kind of throw this whole family dynamic all off kilter, even more off kilter than it could have.
Yeah, there's been a lot of theories out there that maybe his mum's a mermaid. There's been a lot of interesting theories, but just to go back to what you talked about with the stem cells from the mermaids. I mean, that's another thing that's going on in our world.
Yeah,
this whole debate
true.
about whether we use stem cells to cure illnesses or help people walk. And I think this is what makes great television, is you can look at the human condition through another species. We can't often look at it in our own backyard, but we can look at it as a species. Like, wouldn't we all like to live in this world where none of us see colour, culture, or creed? I mean, I don't think that's going to happen in my lifetime.
No.
You know, it's something to aspire to.
Yeah,
Definitely. And I mean, that's what, I mean, Freeform is doing such a great job of really including everybody in pulling different topics that no one's even really thought to put on television. And I think this show, I mean, just like figuring out a way to kind of show people the world of sirens, as, you know, everybody sees it as the mermaid, Disney mermaids, and obviously there's so much mythology behind it.
And a real twist on that. And you know, it's such a blessing to work for Freeform, and I love their logo, a little bit forward.
Yeah.
They're all about a little bit
that.
forward. And it takes a really brave and bold company to make this kind of show.
Definitely. And I mean, they're doing a phenomenal job. But I've got to know, too, you know, obviously it's all about mermaids. Did you have any prior, you know, conspiracy theories or anything about mermaids before you got this script?
No.
No.
No, I hadn't. I was kind of pretty much like everyone else, you know, the Little Mermaid and, you know, the gorgeous, cute little cutie pies.
Right.
So when I read the script, I thought, wow, you know, like I recognized the formula of it, as you had this kind of relatable, identifiable town and ordinary folks like your fisherman and your sheriff. But then it was all about the subject matter. I'd never seen that before. It's, once again, it comes back to Rin, to Elaine Powell. It's all about her. And so I had certain intuitions about Helen, and I asked them about these intuitions I had, and some were confirmed, and some were like, well, we don't quite know yet. So as I say, they kind of really drip-fed us information. They didn't want to give us too much up front, because sometimes actors will get this idea in their head and then play it a certain way, and they don't necessarily want that yet.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the mermaid is a shapeshifter, and the series in a lot of ways did its own kind of shapeshifting and going, wow, that's really interesting, or this is working really nice. And then a lot of things come down to chemistry between the characters, various storylines. So I'd love to tell you a whole lot about Helen and what happens with her in the future episodes, but, you know, I'd lose my chance.
No, we don't want that.
to happen.
Yeah, no.
I love
We love
working-
Helen.
Thank you. And I love playing her. She's really, you know, you get a few characters in your career where you just go, God, this character is just I just love her. You know,
I love her mystery because
Exactly.
we don't know that much about Helen, but we know we love Helen because they call her the crazy town lady. But I feel like you want to hang out with the crazy town lady if you want to know the truth about everything.
She seems so wise, like you know what's going on.
Yeah.
That's right, and that's the only reason they've called her the town nutshell, because she's always been a believer. It's like the trailer says, every town has a tale, and every story has a believer, and that believer's always been Helen. She's always believed in real mermaids, not the mermaid fairs or the fantasy mermaids. And it's not till they start coming to town and they're suddenly like, well, maybe she's not so crazy.
Yeah.
But because she has been different, and she's had her beliefs, and she has her passion all about mermaids, she somewhat had a bit of an alienated life. You know, she is a member of the community, but it's like we all know people like this. They're a little eccentric, they're a little enigmatic. You can't quite put your thumb on them, but you know, who doesn't want to play someone that's different and unique and totally a one-off? And Rin is the same. That's the wonderful thing about Rin. We've never seen a character like Rin, and my God, Eileen is just killing it.
She really is.
Isn't she?
Yeah.
I mean,
from the trailer, because we used to host Freeform TV News, and as soon as the trailer came out, we were like, literally the four of us were sitting here like, oh my gosh, like she is amazing. She's so good. She makes the show so bright. It's
Absolutely. I really hope we get to come back and do more.
Oh, we all hope for it too.
We are going for season 2.
Hashtag season 2.
Well, speaking of characters and really embodying them, as an actress, obviously you've played many different roles. What was it that kind of you had to figure out how to create Helen? What's that kind of process like for you?
Well, first, for me, the process is normally you've got to look at at characters in their circumstances, you know, because if I'm playing an alien in space, and that's really different circumstances. So I first looked at the circumstances, and I had a lot to bring to her because I grew up in a place in New Zealand called the Bay of Islands. And guess what? The Bay of Islands is a bunch of coastal towns, small towns. And so we grew up inland, and my grandmother had a dairy farm, so, you know, we'd often spend a lot of time there. But in summer, I'd work out at the tourist resorts, place just like Bristol Cove, and I'd earn my pocket money in the school holidays. Wonderful. So, you know, and our whole town grew up around an industry where my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father, my brothers, my nephews all worked in that industry. Bristol Cove's like that with the fishing industry. So you can see that Ben's dad, he's the big boss man of the whole fishing industry, and his grandfather was a fisherman. So that was all very easy for me to relate to. And I've always said this about Helen. I could have become Helen if I'd never left my little small hometown. I could have. I could have opened this little tourist shop, and you know. So that aspect, I had to do a lot of research when it came to mermaids, and I read a lot. And you know, we're so blessed in this day and age. We don't really have to go far beyond Google, to be honest with you. I just Googled, and like all of the stuff that popped up, and I was blown away by how much mermaid fandom is out there.
Yeah.
Just a lot.
Huge cultures of mermaid and conventions. There's one in San Diego, and shops that sell tails, and they're passionate, and they're just like Helen. They're believers, and this is their life, and there's professional mermaids.
Yeah.
And I was just blown away, but I never knew about that until I got cast as Helen. I'm like, okay, I got to do my homework because this is her passion. So she knows all about this, and then she's also somewhat of a historian of the town, so she knows the whole family histories. And for that information, I really had to go to the writers. I'm like, okay, guys, what's going on? What's the deal with Helen? But like I said, they only gave me little bits and pieces. You know, they didn't give me the whole, you know.
The whole shebang,
yeah,
right
the whole
up front.
shebang, no. So it's kind of exciting because it does give the series a thriller feel about it, because it is unpredictable. None of us really knows what's going to happen. And of course, our principal character, Ren, is unpredictable.
Exactly.
She's a new species. So we're all learning about her, and she is evolving. So we already know, boy, she's got a strong right hook, and she throws people.
Exactly.
She has this super strength.
Yeah.
You know,
She
so
does.
that guy.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That
gosh.
was an amazing scene.
It was.
And I think for me too, one of the other really powerful scenes was with Donna, the sister, in the tank when she was getting injected. Oh, that was
hard.
That was hard to watch.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, and especially because we have a conspiracy that Donna, the sister, is actually Maddie's mom. That's our theory.
I have read that a lot. I have read that a lot. So I'm not gonna shut it down, because that's actually a theory that's gone around online. That she could be Maddie's mom.
Yeah.
So one thing you did learn tonight, though, is, as I say it to her, don't let your stepfather hear you say that. So she was raised by the local sheriff, who is Native American, and, you know, raised her on the Haida culture. And, of course, a big part of the Haida culture is their stories of shapeshifters. So that's some of that you can, you know, maybe some of that's going to come through in future storylines. But it's interesting how all of these various cultures are getting mixed up. You know, in this town and around Ren. It's probably one of the most ethnically diverse shows I've ever worked on. And what I love about our producers is they weren't looking at people and going, we're going to cast that person because they're this or they're that. They cast the right people for the roles.
Exactly. And you can see that.
Yeah. And you know, even for me, it's a later storyline, and I can't tell you exactly the specifics. But they said to me initially when I first got cast, they were like, we always knew you'd be right for Helen, after they'd seen my work in Once Were Warriors, the New Zealand film that launched my international career 22 years ago. And I still kind of didn't really quite fully comprehend why until there was a certain episode, and I thought, oh, okay, I get it now.
You're like,
We'll talk about that at the end of the season, right?
yeah,
Then we go, you know that moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. And even just talking about characters and the personalization of them, I think Xander and Calvin are hilarious together, and
They are.
it's not like they're outwardly funny, but you kind of can sense that Calvin's just the kind of like, oh, whatever, I'm going with the flow, or like, dude, let's get out of here kind of thing.
Yeah.
And their dynamic is really fun to watch.
It is, and they're roommates, so they have that connection.
Yeah. We kind of got to see that today with them trying to figure out what this military base is all about.
Yes, that was a
So-
huge discovery.
Yeah, and I'm just figuring out, like, the fact that there's cameras in the military base, and they were coming after them with the guns.
Oh my gosh.
I was really freaked out that they were about to shoot them,
Yeah.
like, to get them out of the way, but it's also kind of nervous because if they get their license plate,
Right.
what's going to happen to Xander
Are they
and
going to come
Calvin?
after them?
That's right.
For sure.
That's
Just
right.
so many questions that we're
We
dying.
do know that she's a very valuable commodity at
Yes.
this point, and we also saw in the trailer that there's a bit of smashing going on, and that she possibly gets out of that tank.
When
We
she opens
saw-
her eyes.
Yeah,
at the
I
end.
saw that.
We saw that and we were like, okay,
Yeah.
this is exciting.
She's been playing this game.
That's right.
Oh
that's
my
right.
gosh.
Which it's smart of her too, because obviously if she were to freak out right away, it wouldn't end well, and it might just try to do something to make her go to sleep. But
Right.
Yeah.
she's
It's
strong.
And
It's
not
so
only
intriguing.
is she, oh, I'm sorry, you're good. I was gonna say, and not only is she smart, but I realized that they can control. They have a lot of power over themselves because they say that her vitals were slowing down and like she wasn't doing well. So the fact that she was able to get herself sick like that just shows how powerful she really is.
Yeah, and that her when she opened her eyes, you're like, oh, okay, so you're faking this.
Yes. which
She's
is
got
amazing.
a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing, and it's also amazing that Ren is Caucasian and her sister is black.
Yeah.
African.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I'm saying. It's all
They don't
mixed
see
up.
yeah.
No,
that's
they
not a
don't. They
thing.
don't. It's just not a thing. And then our merman, well, you can look at photos of him tomorrow.
Oh, I have to check him out. 'Cause I have
Yeah.
not seen
Yes,
him.
I have not
he's
seen Merman either.
Sadao Threat. He's gorgeous.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's like biracial.
Okay.
Yeah, he's pretty damn good looking boy.
I know. I mean, the whole cast is very attractive.
Yes.
So.
They are.
Yeah,
my
and
gosh.
apparently I wasn't on the boat when he, you see his scenes, but apparently he's got an 8-pack. So
I expect nothing less from a mermaid.
Yeah, seriously.
So funny.
Well, what episode does he come on? Because now we're really excited.
well, I think I might get in trouble for that. You just
Okay.
see,
Okay,
you,
okay.
could,
We
you
gotta
could-
wait.
you could come
Watching.
next episode, so you're
Oh.
just going to have to watch every episode.
We will definitely be there
But
watching every episode.
yeah, it was publicised when he got cast, and Aaliyah as our alpha merlady as
Okay.
well. That was all kind of announced when they were in the media, and you saw photos, and they're both pretty damn gorgeous. Yeah.
Oh, so excited. There's so much more to look forward to this entire season, and it's only episode 3, which is so exciting.
That's right.
It's so great. But also just being on set with, obviously there was animals, there was sea lions and everything that you guys are dealing with. Did you have to go and work with them personally at all? Did you have any scenes with the animals?
No, personally, I didn't as Helen, but Eileen and Alex and Fowler absolutely all had training, as well as the water and the tank stuff, and Sabongale. They had to become certified.
Wow.
They had to do a lot of hours with tanks underwater in order to be certified before you could actually shoot.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's a lot of safety stuff they had to learn. So yeah, that was a lot of work, and kind of Eileen and Ben, they both, and Fowler as well, they all had this kind of natural feel with the seals and had a lot of fun. I was quite jealous, actually. I was thinking, oh, maybe Helen can get down to the seals one day.
How long you get in the water anytime?
No, I got the fish shop. The fish shop when I went to buy all that food for her. Got a lot of tweets about that one. It's like, damn, I want Helen to go do my shopping.
Oh my god.
You did the greatest shopping list. I
Right,
was like, yeah.
right.
Yeah, you weren't getting anything cheap either. It was like, I'll take
No.
this and that.
That, the whole, buy the whole shop.
Yeah.
Right?
I'll take the lot.
Yeah.
I always say like Harry Potter. I'll take the lot. Oh my gosh. Well, speaking of grocery shopping and Helen and how amazing she is, she's very stern believer and she has very strong beliefs.
Yes.
I want to know, does Rena have any strong beliefs that you believe in that you kind of relate with your character?
Well, one thing I think that was another natural thing, and then I kind of thought about a lot, is because my dad's native New Zealander, Indigenous, so similar to Native Americans, we have native New Zealanders, Maori. My dad's Māori and Welsh. That's where Owen comes, and then my mum's Caucasian. So I grew up with as a biracial girl. But interesting enough, and I don't want to go too much off course here, but my mum married my dad when mixed marriages were a no-no. So she actually got disowned by her family for hooking up with my dad. We live in a different world now, guys, and I'm kind of maybe showing my age a little bit. But for my older siblings. But anyway, so I grew up really under my grandmother, my dad's side of the family. And a big part of the Maori culture is the Polynesian culture. And if you look at the Polynesian triangle as Hawaii to New Zealand to Easter Island, everything within that is Polynesia, is Pacific Islanders. Pacific Islanders, water people.
Yeah.
So my ancestors, my father's ancestors, come off one of the greatest migrations in the world. And this is before compass. They didn't have a compass. They had no technology. They were so in tune with the spirit of the sea and the sky that this great migration came. And the things that haven't been proven is whether that migration came from Asia or South America. But basically, from that migration, every canoe settled on different islands. So you've got your Samoans, you've got America Samoa, you've got Western Samoa, you've got your Hawaiians, you've got your Tahitians, you've got Easter Islanders, you've got your Niueans, your Cook Islanders and Rarotonga, and you've got your Maoris in New Zealand. So we all come from a seafaring ancestors. And the story very quickly about New Zealand is Maui, who was played or embodied by Dwayne Johnson in Moana. Oh. Yeah, we love Dwayne Johnson, who of course is part Samoan and part black. He's probably our most famous Polynesian in the entertainment industry. Well, Maui had to steal the jaw of the goddess of death in order to fish up New Zealand. And he did fish up New Zealand, and there was this huge creature, and he battered it, which is what created all the mountains and the lakes. But if you look at those two islands, the North and the South Island, it could be a mermaid. Seriously, if you look at the islands, and so the top is the tail and the bottom is the head, and it literally, that could have been a mermaid. Because that was one monstrous huge fish that Maui hooked up and that created the islands of New Zealand.
I love that.
Right?
So maybe you really are Helen.
Yeah. So,
You have so many comparisons.
Right,
This is great.
Yeah, so, and then I looked at where it's set, which is it's set up in the Pacific Northwest. And so a lot of the culture around there is the Haida culture, is the Native American Haida culture. So this is all stuff Helen would have learned or grown up with and known about their shape-shifting.
Yeah.
Because a big part of their culture is the shapeshifters. And that gets talked about at some point about the Haida stories. And oh God, I wish I could tell you more, but I can't.
That's amazing.
I know. That is so
I'm
great.
about to go pull up the map. Like after we get out of this, I'm like,
Seriously, look at New Zealand.
I'm a
Now
true
you see
mermaid believer. I definitely, I am Helen, and I'm pro Helen,
Oh, I
and
love
I
that.
would have been Helen's best friend. I would have, if as a child, I probably would have been in Helen's shop.
Yes.
Always
Yeah.
reading everything.
Right.
Because I'm a true mermaid believer.
And I love that. You come to my shop anytime. And that's something I always thought too that Helen would do, is because she collects all these collectible antiquities. And the mermaid people out there, you want to see everything they collect. So Helen would have gone to market once a month to see what she could find. You know, and kind of dig up all these collectibles, because she has fabulous stuff in her shop.
It even it just looks amazing.
Season 2, you're going to have to visit season 2.
Do we get to see a lot more of the stuff that she has in the shop?
You see it in the background, and so for the first few episodes, that's one thing I can safely say, is you see Helen in her shop and in her apartment, which is above her shop, because she's hiding Rin. So it's not till later in the series that you actually see, she does get out of the shop.
Okay.
She does, she is a member of this community. Yeah, because something happens that takes her out of the shop. Because even I did as an actor, I thought, am I ever going to get out of the shop?
You're like, I want to go play in the water.
Yes, I mean, is Helen going to get a boyfriend one day, maybe? Who knows? Who knows?
That could be fun.
That could be fun.
We would definitely like for Helen to have a boyfriend.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
We need more of Helen.
A fisherman, like a fisherman
right.
that has all this experience, all these mermaids. mean, you guys could talk about sirens together.
That's right. But it's kind of like you look at that town too, and we've said it's been established, the Anchor. The Anchor is the local bar, and they've got a pool table in there, and they've got a dartboard.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have community nights. So this small town is very identifiable to a lot of people who grew up in small towns, or even people who visit small towns, or visit an auntie or a grandparent who lives in a small coastal town. They're everywhere. They're in Ventura. I was out in Ventura in the weekend. I'm like, oh, yeah, here we are. I love Ventura. So I love, so a lot of that I could relate to with Helen. As I say, I had to really research the whole mermaid thing and the culture of the area in which she lives, which is really the Haida people, and she has these other relationships with other townspeople. But I'm getting a little carried away.
Seriously, Rena, this has been amazing. You have just been such a pleasure to have on the show, and obviously you're welcome back anytime. We are kind of running low on time, but before we get into some quick predictions, I've got to give a shout out to Marishna Smid on Twitter. Thank you so much for watching. And every week we want to shout out one of our fans that's been tweeting us and been a fan of the Siren Show, so please be sure to continue to tweet or comment below on YouTube, and we'll be happy to shout you guys out next week. Alrighty, Karla, let's get into some predictions.
Yes, let's do some predictions.
Your AfterBuzz TV
Predictions. Alrighty, go for it.
Okay, so I think this is not much of a prediction because I think this is already happening, but I have a feeling that Rin's sister is totally going to escape out of there, and she's going to not only meet Rin, but she's going to meet Maddie. And there's going to be a sort of connection that I'm very excited to see, because I really believe that she might have some sort of siren connection with her.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, me too. I'm right on that track. I can't wait to see what she looks like as a human when she breaks out of the thing. So we're like on the same page there. Yeah.
What about you?
So that was one of my top ones. I wanted to see their relationship with Maddie, and then I'm really interested to see this triangle thing. With, I don't know what to call it.
We're gonna call it trio.
The trio, and yeah, like I said, like nothing sexual or anything, but I just want to see how their relationship develops and the trust that's going to build between the three of them, and I love that relationship.
I have a feeling that obviously my prediction from last week was that Maddie Donna is Maddie's mom, and that Rin is kind of her, I guess would be her aunt. And so I think that's why they have this weird connection, and she maybe feels a little bit more comfortable than she did with Ben at the start. Because even though she tried to, swing Maddie, I think it didn't matter who it was. It was just the fact that she was the first person to kind of like try to stop her. So I definitely think they have some sort of connection there with being in the same family. And then I think that Xander and Kelvin are gonna hit head to head with the nurse. It's not gonna be long before the nurse is like, why are you stalking me? Why have you called me? And they're gonna kind of figure something weird out. And I think that might be before, obviously, we see Chris start walking again. So that'll probably happen. And Rena, we would love to hear your predictions, but I know you probably can't say any.
Unfortunately, my lips are sealed.
Well, on that note, again, we are so thankful to have you on, and you're welcome back anytime. Maybe we'll have you more towards the end of the season so you can say all the things that are probably itching on your chest.
Yeah, we have to wait till the end of the season, but I'd love to come back and then we can compare notes and compare predictions.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
well, thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you guys always for joining us on our recap. We love this show. We can't wait to join you guys again next week. But before we go, Karla, where can they find you on social media?
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Karla Beltran. You can follow me on Instagram at @IamKarlaBeltran or on Twitter at Karla Beltran with an R at the end.
Rena Owen.
I'm Rena Owen, and I play Helen on Siren, and you can find me at Rena Owen on Instagram, at Rena Owen on Twitter, and the Rena Owen on Facebook.
I love the.
Right?
I love the Rena.
Sarah, where can they find you?
I'm Sarah Lyons. Thank you so much for watching. You can find me on Instagram at Sarah_Lioness, Lioness with a Y, and on Twitter at Sarah Lioness.
And hey guys, Allie Nasta here. Find me on Twitter at Allie Nasta and on Instagram at Allie Girl. We will see you next week. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.